Hello, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube show, Ruben's History Show. Today, I'm going to talk about the rise of Augustus Part Two, and the death and defeat of Mark Antony at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. So after Augustus arrived in Rome in 44 BC to succeed his father as the ruler of Rome, he he became enemies with Octavian because no, not Octavian, Mark Antony, because he was selling his granduncle's gold to the people of Rome, and he didn't like that. So that's why they became enemies, Mark Antony and Octavian. So they also managed to establish the Second Triumvirate, which was a movement of three prominent men of Rome: Marcus Lapidus, Octavian, and Mark Antony. So those men were a part of the Second Triumvirate, and they also were given the provinces. They were also given the provinces. Mark Antony was given the province of Africa. No, it wasn't Africa. He was given the province of Gaul, while Octavian was given the province of Italy, and Lepidus was given the province of Africa, the Roman province of Africa. So they had power. They had power over those. Over those, they were in charge of those provinces, and and Mark Antony spent some time in Athens for the winter of 42 BC, and also he went to go to Egypt, and that's where he met Cleopatra, who was the love interest of Julius Caesar, who was Julius Caesar's girlfriend. So Cleopatra and Antony fell in love, and they had kids. Like I said in the previous video, and they had kids. And then Octavian wanted Mark Antony to stay in Rome, so he could attend to his business in Rome and to restore the Republic. And that it and he wanted him to go back. He wanted him to go back to Rome with his wife, not not Cleopatra, but his other wife. And then also a civil war broke out between those two men, Augustus and Octavian. And so there was a huge civil war thought between those two men from the 30s BC to 31 BC. So they fought against each other during that time. And at the Battle of Actium, which is in the Ionian Sea, I believe, and somewhere in the Aegean Sea, they fought against each other. And it was off of Greece. They were fighting on the Aegean Sea near Greece at the Battle of Actium. So they fought there, and Octavian won the battle, and he kicked Mark Antony's butt in the Battle of Actium on September 2nd, 31 BC, which was just 13 years after the death of Julius Caesar. So after after Mark Antony was defeated in the Battle of Actium, he retreated to Egypt with his wife during that period, and his wife was the Queen of Egypt still, the Ptolemaic Egypt, which was under Greek rule following the death of Alexander, and when his general Ptolemy the Soter, or the Savior, established the Ptolemaic dynasty, which consisted mostly of Greeks who were from Greece. So they also Octavian wanted to bring Mark Antony to the city of Rome. He wanted to have Octavian killed, And so Mark Antony arrived at the city of Alexandria, which is a city located in Egypt. So it was located in Egypt. It's still there today. So the Romans came to Alexandria so they could kill Mark Antony and bring Cleopatra to Rome so she could face trial. So Mark Antony was in his palace in Alexandria, and he saw Roman troops, and then he was killed. No, he killed himself because he committed suicide. He stabbed himself in the stomach, and he just fell to the ground because he heard word that his wife was killed. That his wife was killed, and he just committed suicide. He stabbed himself in the stomach with his sword. But then he heard word that his wife was not killed. Cleopatra was not killed, and so his body was brought to the palace of Cleopatra. So the body was brought back to Cleopatra, and he died while Cleopatra was holding Mark Antony in her arms. So Romans started going to Cleopatra's palace, which was in Alexandria. So so the Roman soldiers started putting ladders up on the palace so they could climb up and capture Cleopatra. And so she was scared, so she locked herself in the palace, and the Romans tried to break in to her palace, but then she decided to commit suicide, like what happened to her husband, Mark Antony. So she committed suicide by a cobra biting her, which caused poison inside her, and she died. The Romans failed to bring Cleopatra into Rome so she could be a prisoner of Rome and she could die there. So the Ptolemaic Egypt came to an end following the death of Cleopatra, and also her son Ptolemy Caesar was killed by the Romans in August 30 BC, the same month when Mark Antony and Cleopatra died in Egypt, Alexandria, which was then Ptolemaic Egypt under the rule of the Greeks. So after that, Octavian celebrated his victories over Italy, Egypt, and at Actium on August 3rd or 13th to 1529 BC. A year after he won the battle against Mark Antony. So those areas came under Roman rule. They became provinces of Rome. Alarica, Germania, and Africa, and Egypt. They all fell under Rome control, and they became provinces. So Augustus became the first emperor of Rome. Who he was also called the first citizen of Rome during that time. And then on January 2nd, on January 16th, 27 BC, Augustus was made the emperor of Rome. He became the first emperor of Rome during that time. And it changed the whole thing. It changed a lot in the Roman history because he became first emperor of Rome, and he would held that position until his death on August 9th, 14 AD. For he was the emperor for 40 years, which is almost for half a century. He was the emperor of Rome, and that was it. So after he died, after Augustus died, then he adopted his son Tiberius, who would become the next emperor of Rome, the second emperor of Rome, and I'm going to talk about that in my future videos. And I will see you guys there, and I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something from it, and I'll see you guys there. See you guys in the next video.